His memory is slipping. We need to look at facilities. Michael Reeves set down his whiskey glass and read the message on a burner phone in the dark quiet of his office. For 18 months, he had been reading every word as Aunt Catherine from Phoenix, the fake aunt he created to spy on his own family. He pressed the side buttons, and the screen flashed. Another screenshot saved to a folder named Family Proof. His eyes tracked the cursor, cold and methodical, as if each click was a nail in a coffin. He had 3,400 of them now, time-stamped and backed up, a silent chronicle of his own erasure. A faint, patient smile curved his lips, the smile of a man who had already won. He was not going to be erased, not by his son, not by anyone. We need to start the paperwork. He's getting worse. And Michael Reeves, still smiling, saved that one too. 18 months earlier, a quiet suspicion had burrowed into Michael Reeves. Conversations ended when he walked in. Laughter stopped too quickly. He bought a prepaid burner phone at a discount store. No contract, no name. That night, he created a Facebook profile for Catherine Reeves, a distant aunt from Phoenix. The photo was a generic desert landscape. "Hi, honey. It's Aunt Catherine. I heard about the family chat. Could you add me? I'd love to feel included." "Of course, Aunt Catherine. Adding you now." Seconds later, the family chat welcomed Catherine, and a stream of messages filled the screen. Michael forgot to pick up the dry cleaning again. His mind is going, I swear.
So it wasn't just a feeling. They really did talk about him like he was already gone.
He scrolled back through months of history, reading each post with the detachment of a man cataloging evidence. Then he set the phone down, poured a whiskey, and made a decision. He would not confront them. He would watch. Over the following weeks, the Reeves family chat lit up with a new story. Carefully planted, carefully watered. I invited Dad over for Sunday dinner, and he completely forgot. Just looked at me blankly. I am really worried. It's getting worse. Last week, he couldn't remember where he parked the car. There had been no invitation, no blank look, but the lie spread fast, echoed by concerned relatives who didn't know better. Brandon and Melissa sat on their couch, phones in hand, building the narrative that would strip him of his legacy. Brandon's thumbs moved quickly, adding false details with the ease of practice. Melissa laughed softly, the sound small and cruel, as she typed another comment about his confusion.
So this is how they're doing it. Not one big lie, 1,000 small ones, each building the case that he couldn't take care of himself.
He touched the screen once, and the image froze. Another piece of evidence locked into his growing archive. His camera rolls swelled with their words. He was no longer a father reading a chat. He was an IT security consultant building a case. We need to think about a facility soon. Dad can't live alone much longer. I've already started looking into power of attorney. It's the responsible thing. Once we have that, we can manage the estate. Move him somewhere safe. Michael read the thread twice, his face unchanged, as if he were reviewing a security log.
Power of attorney. They weren't just mocking him now. They were plotting.
He created a new folder on his computer, labeled simply Guardianship Evidence, and began sorting. Each screenshot was renamed with a date and sequence number. A forensic chain of custody. He printed the worst of them, the conspiracy laid out in ink, and placed the stack in a locked drawer. Beside the drawer, a framed photo of Brandon as a boy smiled up at him, innocent and unknowing. He shut the drawer and turned back to the chat. Their plan was moving, but his had already started. Months passed. The folder on Michael's computer swelled to hundreds of files, and the burner phone never left his side.
Frank, I need your eyes on something. It's not a drill.
Michael, you look like you haven't slept in a week. Come in.
He placed the thick stack of chat logs on Frank's desk, the evidence of his family's betrayal.
This is your own son, Melissa. Michael, I am sorry.
Frank Oberman had testified in fraud cases for decades. He understood exactly what those screenshots meant.
With timestamps and your chain of custody documentation, a court would tear them apart. But you need something more for a family confrontation.
There's a new player. Melissa's brother is a lawyer. He's in the chat now, pushing for guardianship.
Then, we make damn sure your evidence is bulletproof. I'll certify every screenshot.
For the first time in 18 months, Michael wasn't alone, but the enemy had just gotten smarter. As the months rolled on, the chat became a garden of rot. Every day, a new seed of doubt planted in the people who loved him. Sarah, I hate to say this, but Michael's been really erratic lately. I think he forgot his own birthday. Oh no, Melissa. I've been so worried about him. Should we do something? Aunt Sarah's reply came quickly, full of the concern that only real love could conjure, and that they were weaponizing. We're looking into options. He's too proud to admit he needs help. You know how he is. Michael stared at the screen, his fingers trembling, not from grief, but from the cold discipline of saving evidence.
Even Sarah. They've turned even her.
He saved the exchange, her name and words now part of the permanent record. The photo on his shelf, a younger Brandon, a smiling family, mocked him now, and so the fiction grew, one relative at a time, while the real man sat in the dark and watched. Catherine, dear, I haven't seen you post in ages. Are you all right? The message hit like a silent alarm. One wrong reply, and the entire house of cards would collapse. He typed slowly, deliberately, every letter calculated to be as bland and forgettable as possible. So sorry, Sarah. I've been down with a nasty cold. Barely looked at my phone. Much love to everyone. Oh, you poor thing. Take care, Catherine. Later that afternoon, in the corner booth of a dim cafe, Frank Oberman shook his head and chuckled darkly.
A cold? That's the best you could come up with?
It worked. That's all that matters.
It worked this time. But you can't keep this up forever. The longer you wait, the more likely someone gets suspicious.
Michael nodded slowly. The sand in the hourglass was running thin, and they both knew it. The burner phone buzzed with a new notification. A private chat, separate from the family group, had been triggered. Brandon, Melissa, I've been thinking. If we can prove your father is incompetent, we can contest the will entirely. I need specific examples of decline. Witness statements. A doctor's note would seal it. The next reply came from Brandon, his words appearing with a speed that spoke of eagerness. We can get a doctor to sign off. There's a clinic that does cognitive assessments. They won't ask too many questions. I've been keeping a journal of his confused moments. We can backdate it. Michael's thumb hovered over the screen. This was no longer a family dispute. This was criminal fraud.
They're building a false case to steal his estate. Using a lawyer and a doctor, he had to act.
He captured the entire thread in a series of screenshots, the timestamps, aligning with his own meticulously kept logs. The dinner would have to be soon. But first, he needed one more piece of the puzzle. A new will that left no doubt. Alone in the quiet of his office, Michael reached for the old photo frame on his desk. It was Brandon at 10 years old, laughing as Michael taught him to ride a bike in the driveway.
That boy would have never dreamed of locking him away. What had Melissa turned him into?
He set the frame down, harder than he intended. The glass rattled against the wood.
No more.
He lifted the half-full whiskey glass and tilted it slowly, the amber liquid soaking into the dry soil of the planter.
The memory of that boy died the moment he typed those words. This was no longer his son, this was an enemy.
He stood up from the desk, the decision settling into his bones, like the last piece of a machine locking into place. He moved the photo to the bottom drawer, face down, and shut it firmly. The father was quiet. The strategist was now in full control. A week later, Frank Oberman arrived at Michael's house with a leather binder and a solemn nod. Frank spread the stack across the desk. 3,400 screenshots, each time-stamped and verified.
This is the most damning family case I've ever seen, Michael. Every page is admissible.
Good. Then it's time for the invitation.
You are cordially invited to a family dinner. I have an important announcement to share. He printed 20 copies, each sealed in a cream envelope with a handwritten name. Across town, the family chat lit up before the ink was dry. I think he's finally stepping down. Dad's going to announce his retirement and maybe hand over some assets. Michael read the message on his burner phone and allowed himself a thin, cold smile. The trap was baited, and the prey was already congratulating itself. The burner phone buzzed again. This time, the message made Michael's blood run cold. Got a hearing date with Judge Patterson. 2 weeks from tomorrow. Get me those documents by Friday. 2 weeks. The guardianship hearing would beat his dinner by days if he didn't move immediately.
They've accelerated. He needed his will airtight today.
He picked up his personal phone and dialed Arthur Jenkins, his estate lawyer, without preamble.
Arthur, it's Michael Reeves. I need a new will drawn up immediately. No delays.
Is everything all right, Michael? We can schedule for next week.
Number. Today. I'll be at your office in an hour.
Jenkins paused, heard the steel in Michael's voice, and simply replied, "Understood." Michael hung up and looked at the burner phone. Their move only made the trap more perfect. Michael grabbed the burner phone and tapped out a final message to the family group. "I am afraid I've been very ill. Won't be online much. Sending love to you all." A flurry of "get well soon" messages followed. No one questioned the faceless ant. An hour later, he stepped into the formal dining room, carrying a cardboard box. He lifted a compact projector from the box, set it on the sideboard, and connected it to his burner phone.
It had to be perfect. Every word, every date, projected for the family to see.
He pressed a button, and a square of white light hit the wall, waiting to be filled.
They'd see themselves. There would be no place to hide.
He disconnected the phone, coiled the cable, and hid the projector behind the antique cabinet. The stage was set. All that remained was the dinner. Michael strode into Arthur Jenkins' office, the leather binder of evidence under his arm. He didn't sit.
Michael, I prepared it as requested. A simple codicil. The bulk of your estate goes to charitable trusts, but there's one exception.
The Bible.
Jenkins slid the document across the desk. One clause stood out, highlighted in yellow. Michael signed without hesitation, the pen scratching the paper in the silent room.
It's been notarized, effective immediately. If it's contested, all provisions revert to the previous will, which is completely standard.
An hour later, Michael stood in his home library, his hand resting on a worn leather-bound book.
The Reeves family Bible. It had been passed down for generations. Now it was the only thing his son would inherit.
He lifted it gently, the weight familiar, and placed it in a simple white box. The box would sit on the dining room table, inconspicuous, until the moment he called Brandon forward. That night, Michael stepped onto his back porch. He lit a cigar, the smoke curling into the dark. The old chair creaked as he sat, his gaze on the distant city glow.
Tomorrow he would destroy his son with the truth, and there would be no coming back.
He replayed the words. His memory is slipping. We need to look at facilities. That memory snuffed out any pity. He crushed the cigar against the stone railing, cold and final.
No more. Whatever came, he would see it through to the bitter end.
He stood, took one last look at the stars, and walked inside. In the kitchen, he poured a glass of water and drank it slowly, the cold soothing his nerves. His reflection in the dark window showed a man who had made his choice, and there was no turning back. Sunday morning arrived with a pale winter sun. Michael showered, dressed deliberately in his charcoal sweater over the white collared shirt. He walked into the formal dining room, surveying the space like a general before a battle. He adjusted the chairs, counted the place settings, smoothed the white tablecloth.
Everything had to look ordinary. A normal family dinner.
He pulled the projector from behind the cabinet, connected it once more to the burner phone. He tapped the phone, and a screenshot appeared on the wall, a test. Then, off. He put the burner phone, fully charged, in his pocket. The remote joined it. The white box with the Bible sat on the sideboard, half hidden under a linen napkin. He stacked the printed copies beside it, each one damning. He took a final look around the room, then turned off the chandelier. It was time. The doorbell chimed through the house, and Michael opened the door to find Aunt Sarah beaming on the step.
Michael, you look wonderful. I was so worried after what Brandon said, but you are glowing.
Just taking care of myself, Sarah. Come in, come in. The others are in the dining room.
More family arrived in a flurry of coats and conversation. Cousin Tom's voice boomed down the hall.
Michael, what's this big announcement? Giving away your fortune, old man?
Patience, Tom. Let's get through dinner first. I promise it'll be worth the wait.
Brandon and Melissa arrived last, a bottle of wine in Brandon's hand. They slipped in as the others found their seats.
Dad, we've been so excited for tonight. I hope you are finally putting your feet up.
Yes, Michael. You are looking much better than we expected.
Michael poured the wine himself, offering a glass to each guest, then took his seat at the head of the table. The main course was served. Forks clinked against china, and conversation lulled into careful small talk.
You must be so relieved, Michael. Finally, stepping back and letting someone else take the weight.
Brandon shifted in his seat, his grip tight on the wine glass.
So, Dad, when are you going to tell us the big news? We're all dying to know.
Yeah. Stop holding out. Michael, retirement. Or maybe you bought a boat.
Dessert first, Tom. I promise the wait will be worth it.
Beneath the table, Michael's thumb brushed the projector remote in his pocket. Brandon's hand twitched around his glass. The air seemed to congeal. Aunt Sarah's smile faltered as she looked from Michael to Brandon. Michael's eyes flicked to the clock on the wall. It was almost time. He set his fork down with a quiet, final click. Michael rose from his chair, a single motion that silenced the table, and lifted his wine glass.
Before my announcement, there's something I want to share with all of you.
From his pocket, he pulled the burner phone and tapped a button. The screen on the wall lit up with the family group chat. Messages scrolled, their private jokes, their plans, their poison, for everyone to see.
For the last 18 months, I have been Aunt Catherine.
Melissa's face drained of color. Her lips parted, but no sound came out.
Dad, we never meant. You have to understand.
Aunt Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Cousin Tom shoved his chair back with a scrape of wood.
Every word you typed, every plan you made, I read it, and I saved it all.
He reached down and pulled a thick stack of printed copies from beneath the linen napkin. Michael circled the table, laying a printed sheet beside each guest's plate. No one dared touch theirs at first.
Sarah is such a busybody. She never knows when to stay out of it. Melissa wrote that about me?
You two are disgusting. You planned to lock up your own father and steal his estate.
The room erupted into a storm of gasps and jagged whispers. Years of family trust crumbled into accusation.
It was just venting. We never meant any of it seriously. You have to believe us.
Melissa said nothing. She sat rigid, her face a mask of silent fury, eyes fixed on the table.
The chat proves you forged his incompetency. That's fraud, not venting.
Michael stood at the head of the table, hands clasped, watching the destruction without a flicker of emotion. He hadn't needed to say a word after the initial reveal. The evidence spoke for itself. He cleared his throat quietly, and the room fell silent, awaiting his final words.
My announcement is this. My will was rewritten this morning.
He lifted the white box from the sideboard and slid it across the polished wood.
Brandon, this is your inheritance. The Reeves family Bible. Nothing else, and if you contest it, even that is gone.
You can't do this. You can't just cut me out.
I just did. The will is notarized and effective immediately.
Melissa's jaw clenched, but she said nothing. Brandon's shoulders shook with silent sobs, his face buried in his hands. Aunt Sarah stared at the Bible, her lips trembling, but she did not speak. Tom shook his head in disgust and turned away. Michael looked at his son one last time, his face unreadable, then turned away to face the window. The dinner was over. The family sat in stunned silence, the weight of the judgment settling over the room like a shroud. The scrape of chairs broke the silence as the guests rose from the table, their faces marked by shock and sorrow. Aunt Sarah approached Michael, her eyes wet, and pulled him into a quiet embrace.
I am so sorry, Michael. I didn't know.
Cousin Tom shook his head at Brandon, then placed a hand on Michael's shoulder before leaving. Brandon stumbled out, clutching the Bible, with Melissa following, her face a mask of stone. Michael stood at the door until the last guest departed, then closed it with a soft click. He returned to the dining room, now empty save for scattered plates and the projector's faint afterglow. He gathered the printed logs from around the table, stacking them into a neat pile. He switched off the projector. The screen went dark. The house fell into a heavy quiet. He stood alone in the dim room, the weight of the evening settling over him, but his expression remained calm. In his office, Michael pulled the burner phone from his pocket. The screen flickered to life. He saw a flood of panicked messages. None of it mattered now. He pulled open the bottom desk drawer, the one where he kept the old photograph. He placed the burner phone inside, next to the framed photo of Brandon as a child. He picked up the photo, the boy's smile unchanged, and set it back down, face up. Then he slid the drawer shut, the phone and the photograph disappearing together. He had given his son the only inheritance that mattered, the truth. He allowed himself one deep breath, then another, the tension of months slowly dissolving. His reflection in the window looked back at a man who had been broken, but had rebuilt himself with stone. And in the quiet of his office, Michael Reeves finally rested.